But he has still another knowledge of God, the intellectual substance. For it is said in the second book that a separate intellectual substance, knowing its own essence, knows both what is above it and what is below it, according to the manner of its substance. This is particularly necessary if that which is above it is its cause, since it is necessary that in the effects a likeness to the cause be found. Hence, since God is the cause of all created intellectual substances, as is evident from the foregoing, it is necessary that separate intellectual substances, knowing their essence, know God himself by the way of vision, just as the similitude of the things seen corporeally is in the sense of the seer. Since then, some have held that man's ultimate happiness is in this life through the fact that he knows separate substances. We must consider whether man can know separate substances in this life. But this has a problem, for our understanding, according to its present state, understands nothing without phantasm, which is in the same way to the possible understanding by which we understand, as colors are to sight, as is clear from what was discussed in the second chapter. If, therefore, through intellectual knowledge, which is from phantasms, one of us can arrive at the understanding of separate substances, it will be possible for someone in this life to understand the separate substances themselves, and consequently, seeing the separated substances themselves, he will participate in that mode of knowledge in which a separated substance, understanding itself, understands God. Now that from the knowledge which is through phantasms, we can arrive at the understanding of substances. Some have put it in different ways. Avampas, for he stated that through the study of speculative sciences we can, from those understandings which we know through phantasms, arrive at the understanding of separate substances. For we can, by the action of the intellect, extract the quiddity of anything which has a quiddity, which is not its own quiddity. For the intellect is born to know every quiddity in so far as it is quiddity, since the intellect's own object is that which is what. But if that which is first understood by the possible intellect is something having quiddity, we can by the possible intellect abstract the quiddiness of that which is first understood. And if that quiddity has quiddity, it will be possible to abstract again the identity of that identity. And since it cannot proceed ad infinitum, it must stop somewhere. Therefore, our understanding can arrive by the way of resolution to know a quiddity that does not have any quiddity. But such is the quiddity of a separate substance. Our understanding, therefore, through the knowledge of these sensibles which is received from phantasms, can arrive at the understanding of separate substances. Now he proceeds to show the same thing by another and similar way, for he posits that the understanding of one thing, such as a horse, is multiplied with me and with you only through the multiplication of spiritual species, which are different in me and you. It is necessary, therefore, that the understanding which is not supported in any such form should be the same with you and with me. But the quiddity of the understanding which our intellect was born to abstract, as has been proved, does not have any spiritual and individual species, since the quiddity of the understanding is not the quiddity of an individual, neither spiritual nor corporeal, since the intellect, insofar as it is of this kind, is universal. Our understanding then was born to understand the essence of which the understanding is one among all. But such is the quiddity of a separate substance. Therefore our understanding is born to know a separate substance. But if we consider carefully, these ways will be found to be frivolous. For since the intellect as such is universal, it is necessary that the quiddity of the intellect be the quiddity of something universal, that is, of a genus or species. Now the quiddity of the genus or species of these sensibles, of which we receive intellectual knowledge through phantasms, includes in itself matter and form. It is therefore quite unlike the quiddity of a separate substance, which is simple and immaterial. It is not possible, therefore, that by the fact that the quiddiness of a sensible thing is meant by phantasms, the quiddiness of a separate substance is meant. In addition, the form of reason which cannot be separated according to its being from any subject is not the same as that which is separated according to its being from such a subject, although both are taken according to consideration without such a subject. For there is not the same relation between magnitude and separate substance, unless we posit that separate magnitudes are intermediate between species and sensibles, as some of the Platonists maintained. Now the quiddity of the genus or species of sensible things cannot be separated according to their being from this individual matter, unless perhaps, according to the Platonists, we posit separate species of things, which is disproved by Aristotle. Therefore, the aforementioned quiddity is completely different from separate substances, which in no way exist in matter. Therefore, separate substances cannot be understood by the fact that these quiddities are meant. Still, if the quiddity of a separate substance is given to be of the same reason as the quiddity of the genus or species of these sensible things, it cannot be said that it is of the same reason according to species, unless we say that the species of these sensible things are the separate substances themselves, as the Platonists held. It remains, therefore, that they will not be of the same reason, except as regards the reason of quiddity insofar as it is quiddity. Now this is the general reason, that is, of the genus and of the substance. Therefore nothing can be understood by these quiddities about separate substances unless they are a remote kind of them. But when the genus is known, the species is not known for this reason, except in potentiality. It will not be possible, therefore, to understand a separate substance through the understanding of the quiddities of these sensibles. Further, the distance between a substance separated from sensibles is greater than that of one sensible from another. But to understand the quiddity of one sensible is not sufficient to understand the quiddity of another sensible. For one born blind, through the fact that he understands the quiddity of sound, can in no way come to understand the quiddity of color. Much less, therefore, by the fact that one understands the quiddity of a sensible substance, will he be able to understand the quiddity of a separate substance. Again, even if we suppose that separate substances move the spheres, from whose motions the sensible forms are caused, this mode of knowledge of substances separated from sensibles is not sufficient to know their existence. For by the effect the cause is known, or by reason of the similitude which exists between the effect and the cause, or insofar as the effect demonstrates the power of the cause. But according to the reason of similitude, it cannot be known from the effect what it is, unless there is an agent of one kind, and thus separate substances do not have to do with sensibles. But according to the reasoning of power, this too can only be when the effect equals the power of the cause, for then the whole power of the cause is known through the effect. But the virtue of a thing shows its substance. But this cannot be said in the purpose, for the virtues of separate substances exceed all the sensible effects which we understand, just as a universal virtue surpasses a particular effect. It is not possible, therefore, that we can arrive at the understanding of separate substances through the sensible understanding. Still, all intelligible things which we come to know through investigation and study belong to some kind of speculative science. If, therefore, by the fact that we understand the natures and quiddities of these sensible things, we come to understand separate substances, It is necessary that understanding separate substances happens through some of the speculative sciences. But we do not see this, for there is no speculative science which teaches us what separate substances are, but only because they are. It is not possible, therefore, that through the fact that we understand the natures of sensible things, we should arrive at the understanding of separate substances. Now, if it is said that it is possible for some such speculative knowledge to exist, even though it has not yet been discovered, this is nothing, because it is not possible to arrive at the understanding of the aforesaid substances by means of any principles known to us. For all the proper principles of any science depend on, first, indemonstrable principles known by themselves, the knowledge of which we receive from the sensible, as is clear from the end of the latter. Sensible things, however, do not sufficiently lead to the knowledge of immaterial things, as has been proved by the above reasons. It is not possible, then, to have any knowledge by means of which it is possible to arrive at an understanding of separate substances.